Welcome to Ex-Confessions Unlocked, where lies, betrayal, and truth collide. Kindly subscribe so you don't miss any of this. We share new stories daily. Stick around and unlock the drama. Now, let's get into today's story. She said it so casually in therapy, I almost thought I misheard her until she doubled down. That was the moment everything shifted. I wasn't planning to go to therapy to watch my marriage die in high definition. That wasn't the goal. At least not my goal. I thought we were trying to fix things. I thought therapy was the place where people go to air out the mildew so they can start scrubbing. Turns out it was more like the pre-game press conference before the final breakup. We've been going for 3 months, weekly sessions, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Our therapist, Susan, was neutral in that soft, maddening way therapists are. She always looked like she was 2 minutes away from lighting a candle and offering us a cup of herbal tea. I don't say that to mock her. She was professional, calm, but even her expression cracked a little when my now ex-wife opened her mouth in session number 13. So let me rewind a bit. Amy and I had been married for 5 years. Dated for 2 before that. She was magnetic when I met her, funny, brilliant, with the kind of smile that made people lean in. She could talk circles around anyone in a debate and then bake you cookies an hour later. I fell hard, and for the first couple years, it worked. But then the mood swing started. The passive-aggressive comments. The long silences that lasted just long enough to mess with my head. 1 minute, she'd be all in, talking about vacations we'd take someday, or baby names even though we weren't trying yet. The next, she'd be sleeping on the far edge of the bed like I was radioactive. I suggested therapy during one of those weird silences. She laughed at me, said I always wanted to be the fixer, said therapy was for people with actual problems. 2 months later, she brought it up like it was her idea. I said yes because I was desperate, because I still believed things could get better, because I didn't want to be another guy who bailed when it got hard. So we went. The sessions were awkward at first. She did most of the talking. A lot of he never listens, and he doesn't challenge me. I listened, tried to take notes mentally. I brought up the time she disappeared to her sister's for 3 days without answering my texts. She said I was smothering her. Susan nodded like a metronome. Everything was interesting or something to unpack later. I was starting to get suspicious around week 8. Amy was too calm, detached, in this weird performative way. Like she was showing up to therapy the way you show up to jury duty, obligated, annoyed, and ready to leave as soon as they said she could. She answered questions, but always in that therapist speak, like she was copying from a workbook. By week 12, I told Susan I was feeling like Amy was emotionally unavailable. Amy smiled. That same polite, fake smile she uses on waiters when they get her order wrong, but she doesn't want to send it back. Then came week 13. Unlucky number 13. We've been talking about attachment styles. Susan was walking us through a framework about anxious versus avoidant personalities. Amy was nodding like she'd read 3 books on the topic, which, knowing her, she probably had. Then Susan asked a very simple question. What are you hoping to get from this relationship, Amy? Amy didn't hesitate. Not even a breath. I'm using this relationship to work through my issues before I find someone better and divorce him. Just like that. Matter of fact. Deadpan. I thought I'd misheard her. I literally blinked and looked at her. Then at Susan like maybe it was a bad joke. Maybe I missed the sarcasm. Susan, bless her stone-faced professionalism, actually leaned forward slightly. I just want to clarify, she said. Have you shared that with her before now? Amy tilted her head like she was being asked a dumb question. No, but he should be grateful for the experience. I stood up. Just stood up. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. Didn't even say anything clever. I just stood up like someone had yanked a cord out of my back and all the power shut off. My hands were shaking, but my voice was calm. I looked at Susan and said, "Thank you for your time." Then I walked out. I didn't hear anything from Amy that night. I think she assumed I'd come home eventually, that I'd cool off, sleep on the couch, wake up, and go back to pretending everything was normal like I've been doing for years. But I didn't. I went to my brother's place. Told him what happened. He said something like, "Dude, what the F asterisk asterisk asterisk," and handed me a beer. That was the first moment I realized I hadn't cried. I wasn't even angry. I just felt stupid. Stupid for not seeing it. Stupid for hoping therapy would fix what was essentially a social experiment for her. Stupid for loving someone who saw me as a training dummy. The next day, the phone calls started. First 5, then 12, then 30. By the end of day 2, it was 78 missed calls and 11 texts, ranging from, "Can we talk?" to "You're being dramatic" to "I didn't mean it like that." "Yeah? How did you mean it?" I didn't respond. I spent the next few days rethinking our entire relationship. You know how people say hindsight is 20/20? Try watching your memories in reverse after someone tells you were basically a prelude to their real love story. I remember the way she talked about her exes like they were lessons. Not people. Lessons. He taught me I deserved better. He showed me what I don't want. I was always uneasy with how coldly she said those things, but I convinced myself it meant she'd grown. Nope. She just moved on like changing hairstyles. I remembered once when I was sick, and she told me to stop milking it. I had the flu. She went out that night anyway. Told me I was acting like a child. I remember the time I got a promotion, and she didn't even look up from her phone. Said, "That's nice," then went back to scrolling. When I asked if she wanted to celebrate, she said, "We'll see. I'm tired." God. I remember the night she told me she wasn't sure she believed in love anymore. That long-term relationships were mostly about tolerating another person's flaws. I thought she was just having a rough patch. Turns out she was laying the groundwork, lowering expectations, softening the landing for when she'd eventually pull the chute. The thing is, if she just said she wanted out, I would have been crushed, yeah, but at least I'd still have my dignity. But this, treating me like a relationship internship, that lit something in me I hadn't felt in a long time. Something that said, you're not a prop in someone else's healing journey. So I called a lawyer. Nothing aggressive, just fact-finding. Amy and I don't have kids. No pets. No shared business. The house is in both our names, but I was the one making the mortgage payments. The lawyer said we could untangle this cleanly if we move quickly. That was my priority now. Clean exit, minimal fire. By day 4, Amy actually came by my brother's place. Knocked like she was just popping over for a cup of sugar. I didn't answer. Let my brother deal with it. He said she stood there for 5 full minutes, then left a note. Not even a real note. Just a torn piece of paper that said, "I didn't mean it that way. Please call me." What way did you mean it, Amy? That I should be flattered you chose me as your emotional crash test dummy? That I should be grateful I got to be your prelude? Nah, I'm good. The silence after that note was almost better than the note itself. Like she finally got that I wasn't playing anymore. That the game was over, and I wasn't waiting around for her next move. I didn't block her yet. That wasn't for her benefit, though. I just wanted to see what she'd do with the open door. Would she take the hint and give me space, or keep barging in like I owed her something? Spoiler, she barged. Day 5, I got a long email. Subject line, "I owe you an explanation." It started with her usual word soup, some pseudo-intellectual garbage about self-actualization, trauma bonding, emotional evolution. She actually wrote the words, "I've been doing inner work, and I realized I've been projecting my insecurities onto the relationship." Cool. Then she said the line that really locked in how delusional she'd gotten. "I think the therapist misunderstood what I meant. I was saying that our relationship has helped me grow so much, and I hope that growth will help me be ready for something better for us." So now, someone better meant a better version of our relationship, apparently. A linguistic backflip worthy of Olympic-level denial. She also said she felt ambushed when Susan asked her if she'd told me all that before. Ambushed. In therapy, where you go to talk about things. She said she only said what she said because she was under emotional pressure and felt cornered. Amy doesn't get cornered. She's always been a sniper, not a street brawler. Everything she says is calculated, rehearsed. She had that line locked and loaded before we even got in the car. I didn't reply to the email. What was I supposed to say? "Thanks for turning my heart into a sandbox for your self-discovery. Good luck with your next test subject." Nope. I printed the email, gave it to my lawyer, and kept moving. That weekend, I went back to the house while I knew she'd be gone. Grabbed what I needed, clothes, some books, my tools, a box of old photos. I left her stuff exactly how it was. I didn't want to touch a single thing that belonged to her. Felt radioactive. She must have noticed because a few hours later, I got the mother of all texts. "So you're just leaving me?" "Yep, that's the idea." Then, you didn't even try to talk to me about it. Talk. I listened to you say to another adult, with zero shame, that I was a stepping stone to someone better. What more was there to talk about? Then came the manipulation. You're abandoning everything we built. We've been through so much. I don't want to throw it all away over one sentence. Funny, she didn't seem worried about throwing anything away when she dropped that sentence like a grenade in the middle of a therapy session. By the end of the night, she was doing the thing she always did when she felt control slipping, turning herself into the victim. She posted one of those vague, sometimes people just walk away without trying things on Instagram. Black and white photo, rainy window, heart emoji, the whole cliche catalog. Friends started reaching out. 1 or 2 mutuals texted me, "Hey, Is everything okay with you and Amy? She's been posting some heavy stuff. I told them I was fine, and they should probably talk to her if they wanted answers. Some of them didn't bother replying, which told me everything I needed to know about their loyalty. Funny how fast the friend circle divides when someone dares to walk away from emotional manipulation. The only person who didn't try to play both sides was my friend Kyle. He and his wife had been close to us, or so I thought. But he said, "Dude, that woman treats you like an emotional practice run. I've seen it for years. I'm just glad you finally saw it too." Bless Kyle. Real one. The next therapy session came and went. I didn't show up. Didn't cancel. Just didn't go. Amy went. Susan emailed me afterwards. Not in a pushy way. Just a short note saying she respected my decision and was available if I wanted to continue individually. I thanked her. Might take her up on it later. Amy must have hated that. Me not showing up. Me not playing the part. She probably imagined me storming in, demanding answers, begging for closure. Instead, I went to the gym and lifted weights like they were metaphors. By week 2, she finally stopped calling. It was eerie, like the eye of a storm. Then her mom called. That one made me laugh. I hadn't spoken to her mom in months. Maybe a year. We were never particularly close. Mostly because her mom is like an older version of her, passive-aggressive, image-obsessed, and always thinks she's one manipulation ahead of the room. She said, "I just want to understand what's happening." Amy is devastated. I said, "Did she tell you what she said in therapy?" Her mom paused. She said, "You misunderstood." "Then we're done here," I said, and hung up. I felt like a magician after a final trick. Abracadabra. No more gaslighting. After that, it was quiet. And honestly, I started feeling lighter. Like someone had cut off a weight I didn't even realize I'd been dragging around. I was sleeping better, eating better, even laughing again. Not forced, not polite chuckles. Real laughs. I found myself rewatching old movies without feeling like I was missing half of myself. I didn't even miss her. I missed the version of her I thought existed. But now I knew better. I knew that love, real love, isn't just about proximity and shared routines. It's about respect. And when someone tells you they don't respect you, believe them the first time. It was around week 3 when she sent one last message. Just a text. "I'm sorry. I know I did wrong. If you ever want to talk, I'll listen." No pressure. No guilt. Just a flat, exhausted apology. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself more than I loved the idea of fixing something that was never real to begin with. I turned off my phone, went for a walk, and breathed in the clean, simple air of being free from someone who thought I was lucky to be her stepping stone. She thought I should be grateful for the experience. Turns out I am, just not in the way she meant. The funny thing about leaving someone who thinks they're the main character is that they assume the story stops without them. It doesn't. It just stops revolving around them. By the start of week 4, I had slipped into a version of life that actually felt mine. I hadn't realized how much space she took up in my head until it was quiet in there. Like someone finally turned off the background noise that had been running for years without my permission. No more second-guessing everything I said. No more decoding moods like I was trying to crack some Cold War cipher. No more late-night circular arguments about how I wasn't emotionally available enough because I didn't cry during some ad she saw on YouTube. I started reading again. Not self-help stuff, just books I liked. I cooked without her comments about how I used too much salt or how my presentation wasn't great. I even reconnected with my brother. We hadn't talked much in years. Amy always said he was emotionally immature, which apparently meant he didn't like her fake deep Instagram takes and sarcasm disguised as intelligence. He came over one night with pizza and a 6-pack, gave me a once-over, and said, "Damn, man, you look like a human again." He was right. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was decompressing. And just as I was hitting my stride, Amy decided to launch what I can only describe as the redemption tour. It started with her showing up to my office. Yep, she just walked in. I had just come back from lunch, still holding a coffee, when I saw her standing by the front desk like a ghost who had business hours. She wore this carefully casual outfit, jeans, white shirt, no makeup but somehow still filtered. You know the look. I'm not trying, but please notice me. I stopped mid-step. She turned, smiled like we were just old friends running into each other at a grocery store, and said, "Hey." My coworker, bless her heart, raised her eyebrows like, "You good?" I wasn't, but I faked it. I nodded and said, "Amy, what are you doing here?" "I just want to talk. 5 minutes, I promise." She looked hopeful. Not desperate, not crazy. Just calculated. I didn't want a scene, so I told her to wait outside. We sat in my car. I didn't start it. She looked at me like she was trying to remember who I was. "I've been going to therapy." "Alone," she started. I nodded. Good. I realized I said some things that were cruel and self-centered, and I'm really, really sorry. I let that sit there. She kept going. I think I was afraid. Afraid of real commitment. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of not being enough. And instead of working on those things with you, I treated you like a therapist I was sleeping with. That one actually made me blink. I wasn't expecting that level of self-awareness. Then she said, I miss you. I miss us. I know I screwed up, but if you're open to it, I'd like to fix what I broke. She looked at me like she meant it. But here's the thing. You can mean an apology and still not be someone I want in my life. I looked out the windshield, took a breath. Then I said, I appreciate the apology. Really. And I hope therapy is helping you figure your stuff out. But I'm not interested in fixing something that should have never needed fixing in the first place. She didn't say anything. I added, you said you were using me to work through your issues. I believed you. That wasn't a one-time mistake. That was a mindset. That's who you were with me. I won't sign up for that again. Her face shifted just for a second, like she realized she'd rehearsed for one outcome, and I was giving her a different script. She nodded, slow. I guess I deserve that. I didn't say anything. Then she did something I didn't expect. She cried. Not dramatic sobbing, just a quiet, steady stream of tears she didn't try to wipe away. I really thought we were going to be forever, she whispered. I looked at her. Yeah, me too. Until you told me you were already planning for what came next. That was it. She got out of the car, closed the door gently. She didn't slam it, didn't scream, didn't accuse. She just walked away. And that moment, weirdly, gave me more closure than I thought I'd ever get. Not because she was sad, but because she finally, maybe for the first time, understood what she'd lost. The next few weeks were quiet. No more texts. No more calls. She finally got the message. I started dating again. Not seriously, just seeing people. I told one woman about what happened, and she said, wow, that sounds like a TED Talk waiting to happen. We laughed. I needed that. I also started therapy just for myself. Susan offered to see me privately, but I ended up finding someone else. Fresh eyes. No history. Turns out, I had a lot to unpack. Not just about Amy, but about why I let her hold so much power over how I saw myself. About why I tolerated being treated like an emotional stepping stone instead of a partner. I told my new therapist what she said in that session, word for word, about how I should be grateful for the experience. He paused, then said, gratitude's a good thing, but it should never be confused with tolerance for being used. Exactly. And now I'm good. Not perfect. Not healed in the bumper sticker sense of the word, but grounded. Whole. I still think about her sometimes. Not with anger. Just curiosity. Like remembering an old dream you can't believe you ever thought was real. Because the truth is, loving someone doesn't obligate you to stay once they show you who they really are. And walking away doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. The experience did make me stronger, wiser, less willing to ignore red flags just because I was in love with the potential of a person. So I guess in some twisted way, maybe I am grateful. Just not for her. For myself. For finally waking up. It's been 6 months now. 6 whole months since I walked out of that therapy office and into my own damn life. People say it takes half the length of a relationship to get over it. I don't buy that. Some days feel lighter than air. Others still tug at something behind my ribs. But mostly it's peace. Not the fireworks kind. The quiet kind. The you wake up and your stomach doesn't hurt for no reason kind. I moved apartments. Nothing dramatic, just a clean break. New walls, new routines. I even painted the living room the deep navy blue she used to say felt too depressing. Funny, it's the only room I actually feel calm in now. And yeah, I still get the occasional text. Around month 3, she sent me a photo of a cat we talked about adopting once. Just thought of you, smiley face, like that wasn't a hand grenade wrapped in a smiley. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, I hope you're doing okay. I still think about you a lot. Ignored. After a while, the texts got longer. One of them said, I know I messed up, but no one has ever seen me the way you did. I think I got scared of being truly known. That one almost got me. Almost. Because I did see her. I saw the messy, insecure fireball of ambition and need. I saw her self-doubt hiding behind fake confidence. I saw the kid inside her still trying to prove she was worthy of love. I saw it all. I just didn't see how little she was willing to see me back. That's the thing they don't warn you about in relationships. Sometimes you're the mirror, not the person. And mirrors get smashed when people don't like what they see. Around month 5, she emailed me a letter. A real letter, scanned and attached like we were in some kind of 2007 Nicholas Sparks email chain. She said she'd been doing EMDR therapy, confronting childhood trauma, reading books that weren't just self-improvement fluff. She said she realized she spent most of our relationship thinking she was the broken one and I was the safe place, but then resenting me for being steady because it reminded her how chaotic she was. It was thoughtful. It was probably true. It was also not my job to sit around and wait for her to grow up. I didn't reply to that either. I'm not bitter. I'm not punishing her. I'm just done being part of her healing journey when I was never considered part of her life journey. There's a difference. I used to think closure was about some magical final conversation. Now I think it's just a point you reach when the need for explanation gets quieter than your peace. And look, I'm not some emotionally enlightened monk. I still feel stuff. When my cousin got married last month, and I sat through the ceremony next to a couple in their late 60s holding hands like teenagers, I felt something sting behind my eyes. When I saw our old restaurant post photos of their newly remodeled patio, where we had our 3rd anniversary dinner, I had to close the app and just sit with the weirdness for a minute. But it passes. That's the thing. Pain doesn't ask for your permission, but healing does. It waits until you choose it. And I've been choosing it every single day. I started journaling again. Not in a Dear Diary way. Just messy notes. Things I wish I'd said out loud. Little reminders to myself like, don't dim your light to match someone else's comfort zone. Or, someone calling you their safe space doesn't mean they treat you like one. Or my favorite. Just because someone breaks down in front of you doesn't mean you're responsible for putting them back together. I started dating again, slowly. One woman, Anna, we clicked right away. She's smart, sharp-witted, and honest in this unflinching way that I didn't realize I'd been craving. She asked about my last relationship on our 2nd date. I told her the truth. She didn't flinch. Instead, she said, "You seem like someone who learned the hard way how to keep himself intact." And maybe that's what this was all about. Learning to keep myself intact. Not just surviving betrayal or manipulation or those emotionally exhausting mind games Amy used to play, but genuinely learning how to be alone with myself and like the company. You know what the wildest part is? I think Amy thought she was the one with the character arc. The heroine on her journey of healing and transformation. And I was just the plot device. But life doesn't work like that. I wasn't a side character. I was just quiet, steady, watching, learning. She outgrew the version of herself she hated and assumed that meant outgrowing me too. Except what she didn't realize is I was never the problem. I was the constant. And when someone shows you that your role in their life was never about partnership, but performance, something they could use and move on from, it's your job to exit the stage. And I did. Gracefully, silently, without applause. I didn't get a dramatic ending. I didn't deliver a monologue. I didn't beg for the audience's sympathy. I just walked away. Now I got peace. Not the kind you post about with sunsets and filtered quotes. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind you earn after standing in the rubble, looking around, and deciding, this won't be where I stay. So to anyone reading this and wondering if leaving was the right call, if someone looks you in the eye and tells you they're using you to heal, and you feel that deep, hollow ache of being invisible in plain sight, leave. Not because you're unlovable, but because you're worth loving for real. Not as a project, not as a stepping stone, but as a human being, fully seen, fully respected, fully home. And if they ever call again, if they blow up your phone, leave tear-streaked voicemails, write emotional essays in your inbox, let them. That's not your responsibility anymore. You did your part. You left. And that, quietly, confidently, with your self-worth intact, is the real plot twist they never saw coming. She said it so casually in therapy, I almost thought I misheard her until she doubled down. That was the moment everything shifted.